Kraid is the gigantic green lizard boss with 3 belly buttons that can shoot spikes out, that act as platforms for Samus as well. He made his first appearance in the first Metroid game. Him, along with Samus, Ridley, and Mother Brain, are the OGs of the Metroid franchise. But with the latest entry of the Metroid game, otherwise known as Metroid Dread, there seems to be many speculations about this gargantuan beast's identity. Some are questioning if the Kraid in Metroid Dread is the same Kraid that we've seen before, and if not, is Kraid actually the name of the species and not an individual's name? We are going to look into what is the cause of this confusion in the first place, and what I believe to be the answer to this confusion. So where did it go wrong? How did the confusion happen? Well, it all started when Metroid Dread was announced. Nintendo at the time was releasing information for Metroid Dread leading up to its release. These informations are known as Metroid Dread Report. There are a total of 11 volumes, and each one contains tidbit information, guides, and all cool trivias. It was a cool thing as we got drip-fed information for Metroid Dread before it released. It kept the hype train going and revealed a fair bit, but nothing in the spoiler territory. There was one particular report that split the community though, and that was volume 6 of the Metroid Dread report. Near the end of the report, the chapter titled Even More Powerful Enemies, there is one paragraph that says this. The trailer includes other notable scenes too. For example, you can spot a giant monster that appears to be Kraid, a beast Samus has fought in previous games. You can also see robots created by the Chozo, as well as gigantic aquatic creatures. It was with this paragraph that caused the divide in the community. This is because this paragraph says that the giant monster that looks like Kraid appears to be Kraid. The key word is appear. The report didn't confirm the beast we are fighting is the same Kraid that we've encountered in the past in Zero Mission and in Super Metroid, and understandably so. Based on the timeline we've received, there doesn't seem to be a point where it's possible for Kraid to meet the Morkan Chozos either, as Morkans were busy dealing with the outbreak of the X-Parasites on planet ZDR, the homeworld of the Morkans during the events of Samus Returns, all the way up to Metroid Fusion. This doesn't really give the Morkans a time frame at all to meet Kraid, and the Kraid that we know and love is dead by Super Metroid. We have confirmation that everything in Zebes was destroyed in Other M. This is why the OG Ridley have never made an appearance after Super Metroid. We have Neo Ridley in Metroid Fusion, who is an X-Parasite, a copy of the clone Ridley from Metroid Other M. So the chances of this being the same Kraid is very unlikely at this point, because even the cunning god of death himself couldn't escape death at Zebes. But does that mean this Kraid is a different individual altogether? I wouldn't count on that either. The only other Kraid we've seen so far is Mini Kraid, who has appeared in both the original game and in Super Metroid. This is what is said about Mini Kraid in Nintendo Power Magazine. This midget monster imposter is easy to defeat, but it's not the real Kraid. And in Super Metroid Nintendo Player's Guide, it says, he's small in comparison to Kraid, but the shots that Mini Kraid shoots have tremendous range. Blast through the space pirates and let the Mini Kraid have it, with a flurry of missiles. Both entries seem to confirm Kraid is an individual and not a species, with the Nintendo Power Magazine saying Mini Kraid isn't the real Kraid, or in the player guide how it calls Mini Kraid as an individual, referring to him as he. This also holds true for a lot of Kraid's entry, where they seem to refer Kraid as an individual, and the name Kraid is unique to Kraid and not the name of the species. We also have Kraid's lair. Unless I'm Englishing wrong, the apostrophe and S after Kraid's name means that it is something that belonged to Kraid. So in this case, Kraid owns this lair. Otherwise it would just be called Kraid Lair, as a lair containing Kraids. So I would say that Kraid is definitely an individual and not a species. So why does the Dread report vaguely say Kraid in planet ZDR Cataris only appears to be Kraid, an old adversary of Samus, and doesn't just outright confirm he is Kraid? Well, this is just my opinion, but I think the Dread report just wanted to act cute and be mysterious. The logs comes in many point of views. Sometimes it's written as if it's Samus is the one recounting the tales, sometimes it's directly from the developers themselves, and sometimes it seems to be a narrator from a nature's documentary telling us a story. The entry for Kraid seems to be coming from a narrator point of view, to try to make it sound more exciting than it is. Not that Kraid himself appearing isn't exciting at all, but I think they just wanted to keep the fans guessing. After all, none of Metroid Dread trailers ever outright confirmed Kraid was Kraid. Here, have a look. We only know this creature is called Kraid after the game comes out, but before then, there were no official confirmation anywhere that says it was Kraid. It looks like Kraid, it sounds like Kraid, it smells like Kraid, but we didn't know for sure it was Kraid. So it was just the Metroid Dread report being mysterious. This is also the case for Ravenbeak, in the very same report, but higher up in the report. In the chapter, Who Stands Before Samus? This is what it says. The figure who attacked Samus appears to be a Chozo. The Chozo were a highly intelligent and technologically advanced species who believed their purpose to be that of bringing peace throughout the galaxy. Eventually, the Chozo civilization reached a breaking point, and living Chozos are now rarely seen. Notice how it says at the beginning that it says a figure appears to be a Chozo. Not it is a Chozo, but rather appears. We know Ravenbeak is the Chozo Morkan tribe leader now, but the report writer at the time was trying to be mysterious by saying this figure appears to be a Chozo. But also notice a small difference between this log and the log for Kraid. For Ravenbeak, it says the figure appears to be a Chozo, while the one for Kraid is a giant monster that appears to be Kraid, not a Kraid, like how they went with a Chozo. It was simply be Kraid, once again, unless I'm terrible at English.
Bro?
This seems to refer Kraid as an individual and not a species. The one for Ravenbeak is structured to be a species, and I can't see how the report writer on one hand would write it correctly, and then the next minute write it in mumbo jumbo. With all this evidence, I think it's safe to say Kraid is an individual and not a species name. But, earlier you said that you don't think this is the same Kraid we know and love. Ah yes, I did say that, but I have two reasons for that. One is because I need to have a clickbait to pull you guys in to watch me ramble for this long, and two, this isn't the Kraid from Zero Mission and Super, but rather a clone of that Kraid, much like Ridley clone is for the original Ridley. Kinda the same individual, but not the same individual. Now this presents another dilemma. Why would I think Kraid is a clone, and how did Morkan obtain Kraid's DNA to clone him? The Morkan seems to be very interested in experiments that are designed as instruments for war. They made experiment Z57. They tried to clone Samus to make an army of Metroid Samus, and they captured beasts like Joe Geiger and Corpius to fight. It would be no surprise that they are interested in Kraid, a giant lizard that could instill fear into anyone who dare stand before him just with his sheer size alone. So cloning him doesn't seem out of the question, but how did Chozo obtain Kraid's DNA? Well, this is a bit muddy, especially in my opinion. Metroid Samus Returns and Metroid Dread seem to either retcon or contradict a lot of past events, but more into that later. It seems the Morkans have already obtained Kraid's DNA with this image. I can't exactly remember which area this is, possibly Dairon, but correct me if I'm wrong. But we can see a few stasis jar, and the one in the middle kind of looks like Kraid's head. There is a snout with his large teeth, and also 3 eyes just like Kraid. If this is Kraid's head growing in there, I have no doubt in my mind that the Kraid fought in Kataris is indeed a successful clone of the original space pirate, Kraid. The more pressing question is, when did the Morkans obtain the DNA? It is certainly not possible between Samus Returns to Dread, since the Morkans were stuck at ZDR trying to manage the X-Parasite outbreak, so this leaves the only possibility of before Samus Returns. Could it have been between the events of Zero Mission leading up to Samus Returns? I doubt it. Based on Chozo memories in Samus Returns, it seems to hint the time the Morkans visited planet SR-388, the Metroid homeworld, was the time when the Thohai Chozo tribes just created the Metroids not long ago. We know that after the Morkans visited SR-388, they returned back to Elune to prepare to capture the Metroids, but was sidetracked due to one of their own being infected by the X-Parasite, and have been stuck at planet ZDR since. If the Chozo memories recounts the creation of the Metroids, then this means this event took place way before Zero Mission took place, as by the time Zero Mission took place, the Metroids were already established as a galactic threat. So Ravenbeak and his gang must have holed up for quite a few years, trying to contain the X-Parasite. This leaves only one other possible explanation. The Morkans encountered Kraid during the space pirate invasion of planet Zebes. The chances of Ravenbeak and the Morkans being on planet Zebes during the space pirate invasion is likely, as there was a time where Ravenbeak met Samus to donate his DNA to the adolescent Samus, so the Thoha can experiment on her a second time. Shameless plug to my other video time. There is a link in the description below explaining how Samus was experimented twice by the Chozos. Samus have never been to planet ZDR, and I don't think Samus had a reason to visit SR388 at the time. So this image here, where Ravenbeak is watching Samus, must have taken place in planet Zebes. This all seems to be supported by a fresco found in Ferenia on planet ZDR, in Metroid Dread. The fresco depicts a battle between Chozo warriors and space pirates. The fresco also depicts Mother Brain standing just behind the Chozo warriors, hinting Mother Brain at the time is still on the Chozo side. This line-ups with the timeline when the space pirates invaded planet Zebes, where Mother Brain still wasn't corrupted, or was still conspiring against the Chozo secretly. Overall, this is very muddy since Samus Returns and Dread's storyline kind of feels like it was written by a fan on a power trip fantasy. With this, it concludes the video. I hope I have convinced you that Kraid is not a species, but is in fact an individual for those who believed otherwise. If you have always believed this Kraid is the same Kraid or a clone of our beloved Kraid, all I can say is thank you for watching my video. Knowing you guys enjoy my content makes me want to overwork my brain juice to pump out more of these videos. If you enjoyed the video, help me out by sharing, liking and subscribing. The subscription especially means a lot. Anyway, enough shameless begging and see you next time.